in a significant move drawing attention across the National Football League. Officials have concluded their review and issued a punishment decision tied to a controversial play involving Green Bay Packers quarterback Jordan Love, a development that's rippled through the NFL community this week. The decision comes in the wake of a contentious sequence during the Packers' recent NFC North battle against the Chicago Bears, where a play involving Love was scrutinized for its implications on competitive fairness and rule enforcement. While league offices typically reserve disciplinary action for clearly defined infractions, the circumstances of this situation have generated debate about how the NFL evaluates judgment, intent, and competitive impact when reviewing on-field actions. Understand the league's decision. It's essential to rewind to this past Sunday's critical NFC North showdown in Green Bay. The Packers, led by Jordan Love, secured a 28-21 victory over the Bears in a game that carried huge playoff significance. Love delivered a standout performance overall, throwing for 3 touchdown passes and orchestrating key drives that helped Green Bay seize control of the division. Yet amidst the excitement of that late-game win, highlighted by a goal line stand and an interception by Packers, defensive back Kyson Nixon, one specific moment from earlier in the contest, drew the attention of league officials. In the second quarter of that game, Love attempted a short pass that initially gained 6 yards to running back Josh Jacobs and looked poised to sustain a Packers drive. However, the play was flagged and ultimately negated due to a procedural violation that centered on how the offense lined up and executed the snap. According to reporting, the league determined that the play failed to meet the precise alignment and timing rules required by the NFL rulebook, rendering the pass ineligible. As a result, the ball was placed back at the 20-yard line, forcing Green Bay to punt instead of continuing a promising possession. This sequence quickly became the focal point of discussion because it magnified how fine margins and technical rule enforcement can alter the flow of an NFL game. Unlike a typical penalty, this was not assessed during live gameplay, but was reviewed and upheld by NFL officiating and competition departments after the fact. Such backward-looking audits are uncommon and usually reserved for issues with player safety or egregious procedural errors, not borderline alignment inconsistencies, whatever the exact mechanics. The outcome was clear. The league felt the infraction was substantial enough to warrant corrective action. After reviewing the video evidence and consulting the rulebook, the NFL's competition committee determined that the play did indeed violate league guidelines and could not stand in the record books as a legitimate gain. As a result, the previously recorded 6-yard completion by Love was nullified, altering statistical and situational considerations for both teams. While the move did not lead to a suspension or fine against Love personally, given that the quarterback's role was deemed operational rather than malicious, it did change how the play is officially cataloged. League sources described this as a disciplined decision rooted in maintaining competitive integrity and adherence to the rulebook, rather than a punitive rebuke of Love himself. The NFL emphasized that quarterbacks and offensive units are accountable for ensuring complete compliance with pre-snap rules, leaving no room for interpretation when it comes to impacts on game administration. While Love was not issued a fine or personal sanction, the play's reversal stands as a formal notation in Packers and NFL game records. For most observers, the key question isn't simply whether a punishment was delivered, but why the league felt compelled to make this a teachable moment, rather than let it slide as a routine officiating mishap. The broader context of the NFC playoff race adds weight here. The victory over the Bears propelled Green Bay's record and standings, tightening the battle for playoff seeding. As a result, every yard, every call, and every officiating ruling takes on outsized importance, particularly with the spotlight on division rivals. Critics of the league's decision argue that retroactive spot corrections, even those technically justified, can undermine the game's flow and create unnecessary controversy around NFL officiating. Supporters counter that the league must uphold its written standards and ensure that procedural rules are enforced consistently, regardless of when issues are identified. In that light, the NFL's handling of this particular play reflects both a commitment to rule fidelity and a willingness to engage in unpopular adjudication to protect competitive balance. Jordan Love, a standout quarterback for the Packers who has steadily elevated his profile in the league since being drafted, has largely focused publicly on team performance rather than officiating disputes. Love's progression from a developmental prospect to a lead signal caller has been gradual, but visible. As evidenced by his key contributions in high-pressure games such as the one against Chicago, while the quarterback did not issue an extensive public comment on the league's punishment decision, his general approach in media during the week stressed the importance of preparation, execution, and resilience. Love has routinely downplayed external narratives that distract from the collective effort and outcome, instead emphasizing fundamentals and performance consistency. With the Packers navigating a tight NFC playoff picture, Love's leadership focus remains on on-field execution and team improvement rather than officiating judgments. This perspective resonates with many teammates and analysts who view Love's growth as more significant than isolated officiating rulings. With 3 touchdown passes and several clutch conversions in the Bears game, Love's overall contributions have drawn praise. Even as the league's formal decision underscores how even small technicalities can reverberate in the NFL's highly scrutinized environment, the NFL's handling of this situation is not happening in isolation. In recent seasons, the league has increasingly emphasized clarity and consistency in applying rules related to player conduct, pre-snap procedures, and post-game discipline. Officials routinely review game footage to determine whether certain actions should result in fines or other accountability measures, particularly when such actions affect player safety, sportsmanship, or competitive equity. Examples abound across recent weeks where players have been fined or disciplined for everything from controversial celebrations to illegal blocks, reinforcing the league's intent to regulate behavior both on and off the field. While historical controversies like Deflategate, a high-profile 2015 scandal involving Tom Brady and football inflation levels, involved broader competitive fairness issues. The current decision differs by focusing on procedural legality rather than equipment tampering or deception. This latest instance with Love and the Packers demonstrates the NFL's willingness to enforce that spectrum of rules, even when it's uncomfortable or draws debate. Whether fans view the league's decision as justified or overbearing may depend on their tolerance for strict rule enforcement versus the desire for a more fluid game experience. Either way, the decision highlights how finely tuned NFL governance is in the modern era. From a team perspective, the punishment decision itself may have a limited direct impact on standings or postseason trajectory. But its symbolic weight is not trivial. Packers, already positioned near the top of the NFC North, must continually navigate both on-field execution and off-field narratives as they contend for a favorable playoff seed. Meanwhile, division rivals like the Bears, who entered that game with strong momentum, view every ruling through the lens of divisional tiebreakers and playoff mathematics. Strategically, coaches across the league likely took notice of how the NFL evaluated procedural compliance in this case. Offensive coordinators and quarterbacks may adjust pre-snap communication and alignment protocols to mitigate similar risk, knowing that even subtle violations can be subject to league scrutiny. Defensive game planning, too, must account for how officiating standards both live and in retrospective review shape competitive dynamics. As the NFL season marches forward, the Love punishment decision reinforces the broader narrative that every nuance of NFL play, from alignment to execution, matters. For fans and analysts alike, it's a reminder that modern professional football is governed by a web of rules designed to enforce fairness, safety, and competitive clarity. The league's willingness to apply those rules, even retrospectively, may continue to generate debate. Yet it also underscores the league's role as both referee and arbiter of integrity. For Jordan Love, the incident will likely be a footnote in a season defined more by wins, quarterback performance, and playoff positioning than procedural controversy. Still, the broader implications reverberate across the NFL, suggesting that rule enforcement and disciplinary decisions will remain prominent storylines as the playoff race intensifies and the stakes continue to rise.